addition to other organizational representation.
And we had a keen eye to people who had bomb experience as well. Not that we want to pigeonhole us into any particular in this format, but that is a typical way that have been in the process through bomb elections. People have either that experience or something and those folks are represented.
Commissioner, you have a question? No, I have. Do we have Commissioner Brown?
I have a motion. I move that we approve the people who are listed in lines 3 through 15 to be on this committee.
Could we consider, well, I'm not trying to suggest a different motion, but potentially approval of this list with 3 through 15 being the priority for the task force, but the option of offering the rest of the list to Christine herself.
Yeah, we would prefer to do it that way just because people might not be able to commit. I believe.
And if there's, before another 1 second, okay. And if there's, before another 1 second, okay.
Yeah.
Gary, forgive me, I'm going to try to do this.
That's all right.
Motion to add Commissioner Coyne.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I meant to say this before about the commission representative. The commission can't vote on a voting representative on this task force. You can vote on a non-voting representative, but voting on a voting representative would look into compliance issues with City Code Section 2.1. I just wanted to, I meant to clarify that earlier.
But we could propose someone without voting on it, and they could be a voting member of the task force, or we can't have a voting member of the task force.
You cannot have a, quote, commission representative on the task force, somebody who is voting on the task force and in doing so representing the commission. Yes.
We have a liaison.
You can have a liaison, a non-voting member, or there could be, yeah.
I can either be there as a non-commissioned representative or as a non-voting member. Either way, fine.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion to recommend to the city that they utilize the spreadsheet from today's meeting as a guide on who they should select for the task force. Yes, sorry, not the best, but happy to take an adjustment. And include Commissioner Coyne as a non-voting member of this list.
Second.
I do have a reservation. I want to say that I think that we should maybe look into like one person on this list that is in the like dark green category. It's just come to my attention that some people might have reservations about this person, so maybe we should look more into them. Line 3. So personally, I can't verify this information right now. However, if we are to do this motion that we just talked about, maybe perhaps we give our co-chairs of this working group the authority to just double check these names in dark green to make sure that they're completely legit. And then if for some reason they don't work out, then we go to light green, then we go to purple, like just giving them the authority to do that. That may just like complicate it a little bit less, but I wanted to bring up that reservation.
I agree with that, and at least from what I heard from Scott's language, he said use this as a guide. And so I appreciate you bringing that up, and in my mind, I feel like that covers what you just said.
Okay.
Do you agree? Co-chairs?
Yes.
Can I ask a question? What do you mean by like making sure that these people are legit?
Make sure that they are going to be members that can work well together. Make sure that all of the things that we know about them are things that like are independently verified, like all of that kind of stuff.
I guess like, for for instance, if now that we've presented publicly, a community member comes to me or Jerry Joe and says, hey, we've not had a good experience with someone who's been proposed, that we would have the authority to say, okay, like, we're not hearing great feedback about someone who's on this proposed list, should we reconsider?
Yeah, I want to say that some people are great on paper, but they still need to meet with them first, I think, and just like verify that community is going to be cool with it and that they feel they will be good members of the task force.
Yeah, and if anything happens, if somebody has a scandal that bubbles up or anything, I think we as a commission can take action, and I'm happy to.
If I could just correct something. So we as a commission are merely providing a list of recommendations to the city. The city, in the end, has the final say as to who is on the task force. They're to work with us in the process, but it's important that we understand we are not actually appointing anyone to this task force. That is the city.
Okay, well, I mean, like, Commissioner, I have a reservation about somebody on this list. I've let somebody, a couple of people know, and, you know, I mean, I don't, this is really difficult. This is why I wanted an executive session to talk freely. You know, if we're gonna move forward with this, I mean, if this is the motion that's going to go, then I'm gonna have to vote no. Because I wanna make sure that one of these people is not on this, because we have to get this right. And like you said, they have to be able to play well with others.
Yeah.
And there's somebody on this list that does not, and it's been in the news before, so I'm just gonna leave it at that.
I hate to keep jumping in. I'm gonna make a comment and then we're gonna go around everyone and see if we have any other additional comments, make sure there's equal sharing of, input, and then we'll go ahead and decide on vote. Second has occurred. So to respond to you, Gary, I hear you, there is another individual on this list that I don't want. I feel like I have to rely on the working group to have vetted and go through the decisions and evaluation process as best as they can, and I have to rely on their work product. And in the end, it may not be perfect, but I don't personally want to let perfection get in the way of progress on this. And so for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and support it, despite my own reservations with, a couple members. That is what it is. And it's not cocaine. So, do we have any other commissioners who also would like to comment on this before we go ahead and take a vote? Commissioner, yeah.
Thank you, and just let me introduce myself to everyone. I'm Stephen Rivas. I'm the new District 3 Commissioner. My pronouns are he, him, and his. My husband and I have lived for 19 years in the Galindo neighborhood, and it's a pleasure to be with everyone here this evening. I do have, so first, this is great work, but I am concerned about a couple of names on the list. As a new commissioner, I've listened to several of what I can understand and discern the audio and some of the video. But my preference is for us to have a final list. And if there are extreme reservations, I do think that we need to push back to another meeting. Respectfully ask for a member of the legal team to let us have a closed meeting where we can maybe ask questions. But I'm sensing a lot of reservation. I'm not clear on the timeline. Is this something we have to do tonight? Is this something we can punt and get some more information about? I'm not certain the commitment that moves beyond this meeting if we were to have a vote today. Is someone from the commission or someone from the city going to move forward and ask individuals in green what are the next steps? And so I just wanted to get clarification on what the timeline is, what our options are to speak about some of this closed, but we would have to get permission for that and schedule it in another meeting. and come up with what is that final list of individuals. That's my comment, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rivas. Any other comments? There's a motion on the table, yep.
Wow, okay, what was I gonna say? I might have had something to say. First of all, thank you for those comments. I agree, knowing timeline would be helpful. And I am curious, I mean, we're a pretty large group ourselves, and to have a group of however many people we are, 10 or 12 people, agree on one thing exactly is gonna be tough to achieve. And at the same time, this is an important list, and I'm hearing reservations about 2 names, which it seems like we have built-in alternates to maybe cover that. And so I want to kind of trust the people on this commission, and if there are reservations right now, I would personally be in favor of removing 2 names and putting 2 people up from the alternate list to see if we can come to some kind of consensus tonight or next meeting.
I think that sounds reasonable to me. I think that my only thing on timeline is, I think we moved really quickly as a task force to solidify criteria, to get the names listed, to score the names, and then confirming folks has been a little bit slower, but we've also, I think, been in a little bit of a holding pattern because the city has been deferring our request for meetings. And now, literally just this last week, we were told via email, even though we've not talked with any city staff person on this project since the town hall meeting where they presented on it, but have not had a one-on-one or a two-on-one with Christine McGuire from the city. But she did confirm last week that it would be very helpful to have the list. So there is some potential internal political reason why she's saying that we do not know. And that is why I think it's been a priority, in addition to just wanting to make sure that the project moves forward and knowing that there has been money allocated in this year's fiscal for the feasibility study, at least as to the last time we confirmed with Christine. And so I would be interested in potentially removing names that are problematic, if that is useful, and moving this forward. There are enough folks on this list to, I think, advance this hopefully tonight if there are only 2 that are problematic. And I want to be transparent as well. I was told what one of the names was that wouldn't be supported by one of our commissioners, and so we switched out someone with redundant expertise to the green and put the person who was a little more problematic, according to that commissioner, in purple, but did not remove them entirely. That felt like the right balance of honoring the body while also trying to mitigate some of the concern.
And to talk on the timeline a little bit, so when we passed this resolution back in September, we gave, in that resolution, the council did as well, direction to stand up this task force in 6 months. 6 months was February. And I would like to emphasize to this commission that we've now gotten signals pretty strongly from the city that this project isn't progressing. And that progress is this, turning over that list, in my opinion.
So they didn't even assign this project to a city staff person until, what month was that?
October.
October. And so yes, 6 months from the resolution, which was
September.
September, okay. I thought it took longer to assign someone. Anyway, that's fine. So yeah, there is some urgency, clearly.
We would like everyone to be comfortable with the candidates, but there's always going to be some unforeseen things that we may not know, the interpersonal relationships between people. We tried to cover that as best we could, and get people as unbiased as we could, just their votes. We have been, and this feedback is important. It's important to hear back from the rest of the commission. And I know we've been asking for that feedback, and we want to hear it if people have reservations prior to.
So if we removed line 3 and line 22, is that a change that we think can get us to some support?
Yes.
Yes.
Done. As long as there's no opposition to that.
I'm not opposed. There's one item that I just want, this is such a divisive issue. This issue has caused so much headache for this commission. And for us to not discuss it, if we're gonna start line item, I think is something I can't just allow. I wanna make sure I've got names right though. Item number 4, is that a current member of Quell?
Yes.
Okay, and so could I understand the thought process on including, because if I look at item 4, I don't see, I'm trying to understand what they're bringing in expertise. I'm trying to understand why they were included. And
We continue to be in conversation with Quell. There's someone who has been previously engaged in conversations with the community about providing more LGBTQIA plus community spaces.
Yeah.
They are a 501c3 who has historically engaged on these topics and has data on these topics and is known by the community to be an advocate for a future community or cultural center. Travis is someone who Jerry Jo and I and others on the commission have spoken with repeatedly, and is someone who we think can effectively collaborate and be a liaison to Quell. And we think they're a critical entity to be represented.
okay, I appreciate the clarity and response. Thank you. I'm good.
So-
Just as a point of order, so do we have Commissioner Coyne, that was a motion to amend the original motion by Chair Neal to remove lines 3 and 22 from the recommended list, and I don't know if I heard a second.
I'll
to that?
second that.
Okay.
Sorry. I think Chair Neal, your original motion was the spreadsheet as is.
Yes, and then I believe Commissioner Coyne amended moved to amend Chair Neal's motion to remove lines 3.
So we need to,
It's a substitute motion, right?
Yes, it's a
So we need to-
Substitute motion seconded by, yes, Gary.
So we would need to vote on that motion, that amendment, and then get back into Chair Neal's.
Right.
Just wanted to make sure that I can order.
Motion by Commissioner Coyne to give a second to amend my original motion. Everyone in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say nay. The motion passes. Now we have my original motion with the amendment, seconded by Commissioner Kruger.
If a substitute motion passes, doesn't that negate the original motion?
Was that a?
I think
That was a substitute
if it
motion?
was a substitute motion, yes.
So here's amendment.
But if it was an amendment to that, then no.
Yeah, I understood it as an amendment to Chair Neal's motion rather than a substitute motion.
I thought I said the word substitute, you said substitute. But
Yeah,
I don't care which way we do it, I just wanna make sure. we
I think I did say substitute, instead of amend the motion.
If it was just an amendment, then we go back. But if it's a substitute motion, then we don't go back because we did the substitute motion.
Yeah, I was saying it as a substitute motion because I thought we didn't do amendments really. Two motions with seconds.
But you said, I think you said substitute motion.
I'm happy with the substitute motion. I need clarity from you.
Okay, so this is a substitute motion, so, so we are, okay, I understand. This is a substitute motion, so Chair Neal's original motion is no longer on the table. We've amended the list to remove lines 3 and 22, and we're back on the discussion of enrollment in general. I believe that's where we're at. So we don't have a motion by Chair Neal on the table anymore to, recommend to utilize the spreadsheet.
Okay, so I move. Let me get this right. I move to approve this spreadsheet as written as a guide for the renewal working group.
As of now.
Yes, for this spreadsheet as amended to be used as a guide by the working group to submit to the city as our names for the task force.
Second.
You got it.
Was that good?
Any more discussion on the motion? We have a second. Everyone in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Please say nay. All right, motion passes. Agenda item number 11. Okay, baby. We've got agenda item number 10, recommendation to the Commission from the Historical Marker Working Group regarding proposed language for historical marker on 4th Street.
Ryan, can you put the red line up, please? Okay, so I think the way that I'll go through this is paragraph by paragraph to make it easier for all of us to think about it instead of doing it all at one time. So what I'll do is I'll make the motion, and then if someone will second, then we can discuss it. Is that all right? Okay.
Just to clarify, so you would have the presentation, which is agenda item number 10, and then we have discussion and possible action, which is agenda item number 12. So
Okay.
if you let me know when you're moving on to the discussion and possible action.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
So I move that the first paragraph will read, "This historical marker commemorates the contributions, struggles, and successes of Austin's LGBTQIA+ community, whose historically denigrated members span all genders, races, classes, creeds, generations, and origins."
We're on item number 10, correct?
Yes.
You can't take action until we reach item number 12, which is a discussion and action. This item number 10 is to present the wording and.
Okay. My bad.
Rather than doing just as a suggestion, rather than doing an individual vote for each paragraph, it might make sense to do sort of informal, like, does this sound good, everyone?
Okay.
And then approve the whole thing in one motion, rather than doing a separate motion, second vote.
I still want to go paragraph by paragraph instead of line by line.
We
because
can
I just
do-
think that makes it easier.
We can do that, but tell us your story, tell us what you're here for.
Okay,
what's
so, as a lot of you know, when I rolled off the Human Rights Commission, I gave them a task, because I really think that having a historical marker down at 4th and Colorado is warranted. As a young gay back during the 80s, City of Boston still doesn't have a neighborhood like Houston and Dallas have. And that's a double-edged sword. It's a good thing, we live everywhere. But to find community back during the 80s, I had to go find it down at 4th and Colorado, because that's where the bars were. And I just think that, honoring that and the history of Austin's support of our community, mostly, not all the time, but mostly, is warranted for this kind of historical marker down at 4th and Colorado, downtown. So we're gonna have discussions by paragraph, is that? I'm sorry.
That's all right. So what, you have proposed language here, and this is language that you formulated, or this working group has formulated that's now been proposed to this commission. And so I guess the question I would have is, do we want to start working through the language? Do you want to read through it yourself and give the initial draft, and then if anyone has changes, they can do that. It's just I've got to do it right on the agenda. And so,
Okay,
How
so
many-
should I read it as the original?
yeah, let's go ahead and read it.
Okay.
And get your.
I have the original language, I'll read the original language.
Yeah.
So the original language was written by two people. One is on the Historical Commission, I believe, and the other person was Toby Johnson, for those of you who know. And the language that they came up with was the following. The historical marker commemorates the contributions, struggles, and successes of Austin's LGBTQIA plus community, whose once denigrated members have always spanned all genders, races, classes, creeds, generations, and origins. In earlier times, people lost their jobs, social standing, and sometimes even their lives for being sex or gender variant. Outside of the isolation of private homes, downtown bars and nightclubs offered secret, safe havens for LGBTQIA plus people to gather. Social justice movements in the 1960s, advancing the struggles for justice, acceptance, equality, and freedom for women and racial minorities, gave rise to a national gay and lesbian rights movement. Austin was quick to respond. A local chapter of the Gay Liberation Front was founded in 1970 with the first National Gay Liberation Conference hosted here in 1971. A vibrant culture evolved with restaurants, bars, retail shops, bookstores, theaters, churches, and a wide variety of professionals and service providers. In the 1980s, a nightlife scene developed in the old warehouse district around 4th Street in Colorado. Clubs with drag shows, entertainment, and dances provided opportunities for gathering and community building. During the AIDS crisis of the 80s and 90s, the clubs offered occasions for sex education, counseling, and fundraising, and solace. In the 21st century, as the movement evolved to recognize all lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, queer, intersex, asexual, and other segments of the community, these blocks of bars and coffee shops became integrated with the rest of downtown, much like the assimilation of queer representation into mainstream culture. With many of the political and social dreams of the leaders of past decades realized, Austin remains a vibrant place for all communities to call home. Now that's the original language. Now, when this came up the first time, there was some discussion about the word transsexual was a terrible word, and I think we can all agree that it's true. So, there has been some suggested changes, which I think actually, I thought the first part of this was done well, but I think with the changes, in my view, it tightens up the language a bit. So, we really need to get the language done tonight so it can go to the Human Rights Commission is it next week or 2 weeks? 2 weeks. So they can bless it also, because there is a budget request for this historical marker of $45,000 that's been put into as a request. Now, I think, in my view, City Council would be more willing to pass that if we had the language ready. Now, it's going to take a while, for everything to work out. Probably a year is my guess. Kim and I haven't talked in about 2 or 3 weeks. I really want to get the language bolted down tonight so we can pass it on to the Human Rights Commission.
So, Karen, do you have revisions that you would like to propose for us to?
I do, and it's on the screen, and I guess we'll move to number 12. Is that how we work it?
Got those revisions there as a part of that you're proposing as agenda item number 10, and then we'll move on to agenda item 12 for discussion and potential.
Okay. So the way going back, the way I see it is I'll read what I think the changes should be, and then if someone can, I'll make a motion, and for us to discuss it, someone has to make a second, and then we'll just do that and pass that, or make changes, and then move on to the next paragraph if that's okay with everybody.
So if you could just read the whole thing, like, let's get in the record, or do you not want to?
Well, does, Ryan?
Gary, I did make a version of the document, I'll share it on the screen.
I can read the
with-
red line.
What's up?
I can read the red line off of here.
Oh, yeah, I was just saying, if, say after this discussion, if all the commissioners like all the red lines and just want to approve the red line
Okay,
document,
I'm okay with that too.
we have this as well, so that, y'all don't have to vote on every single red line,
Okay.
y'all could just vote to approve this.
Okay.
Without having to read it all into the record. all over.
Okay.
This is an option.
Okay, no, that's fine. Then let's, does anybody have any changes that they would like to see off the red line changes?
Just a typo.
Where?
Span is not, it needs an N, in one of the first red lines.
I also have a few like grammar nitpicky things, I don't know if we can do that
Oh.
offline or.
The only thing I see, this is great, and I think it's great besides the typo, the only other thing I see is, the second paragraph, safe havens for LGBTQ plus people, everywhere else you say LGBTQIA, so just update that.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Thank you. Any other changes? Anybody online?
Commissioner Julian, did you have changes?
Yeah, just a
No
few.
changes on, looks great. Which changes?
I can try to go through these quickly.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so first paragraph, I would remove the hyphen before denigrated. Historically denigrated doesn't need to be hyphenated.
Okay. Yep.
We got spans, LGBTQIA. In the third paragraph, I would, say build community instead of community build. In the middle.
Where are we? Which
Um,
line?
Clubs, drag shows, entertainment, and dancing, providing social support by offering safe places to gather and build community.
Fourth
Oh, my bad.
Paragraph line 5.
What did you want us to say?
I think it would read better if it said build community instead of community build.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
Next paragraph, comma, after 2020, I'm so sorry.
No,
This
keep
is
going.
gonna be permanent.
It's fine, no, it's good. Where are you?
So the next paragraph down where it says from 2000 to
Yeah.
2020, just a comma after 2020.
Yeah.
And then lastly, remove the comma before continued notice. And I think this is great.
I would also add minor grammatical change in the final paragraph where it says from 2000 to 2020. I put a comma after 2020, from 2000 to 2020,
I
comma.
think that's what she said.
Oh, you just said that?
Great idea,
It's
sorry.
okay, Fred.
One other thing I want to suggest in the first paragraph, so you have integrated members span all genders, races, classes, creeds, etc. Can you please add abilities to that list?
Oh, yeah, let's do that. It doesn't matter where, just in there somewhere.
Commissioner Rivas.
Actually, I think Commissioner Kitty's had their hand up longer than I
Got it.
happened to defer.
All right, Commissioner McLeod, it's hard to see you, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay, but I didn't have any changes and I had some. Just for continuity, we have the Oxford comma in multiple places and we're missing one. If we, downtown bars, comma, and nightclubs in the second paragraph. And then there's another one further down.
Real quick, on the first comment, I thought the same thing, but that's a different situation.
It is?
Yeah.
I am.
Outside of the isolation of private homes, downtown bars and nightclubs offer secret safe havens.
And then there was another one that I saw, you can also let me know if this, I'm not an English professor or one, but, retail shops, bookstores, theaters, churches, comment, and why? I'm not sure if No, I'm down to Oxford Common. But correct me if I'm wrong.
No, there should be a comma after churches, I think, being the old English major that I have.
I love an Oxford comma, thank you.
I do too. I just want to highlight that, we got rid of transsexual, put in transgender, and I added gender fluid in there.
Commissioner Rivas.
Is that all right?
Thank you. I guess it's the fourth graph during the AIDS crisis of the 80s and 90s. My preference for consistency is to add the 1980s and 1990s. And actually, we could say instead of during, we could say throughout. That might be the only.
Throughout? Okay, I'm okay with throughout.
And then 19. That's all. Thank you.
And then I also just wanted to bring up for folks in the second paragraph, let's see. LGBTQIA plus individuals lost their jobs, social standing, and lives for not conforming with societal norms and being sex or gender variant. Something about that phrase, sex or gender variant, is like rubbing me the wrong way a little bit, and I don't know if other people are feeling that. Makes it, I don't know, because I don't know if having that
How
reaction.
to like rephrase that then, so
Diverse, maybe instead of variant, I don't know.
what's,
I like that.
What's the-
Like diverse instead of variant.
so sex or gender diversity, diverse? Instead of
Yeah,
variant?
it's just something I've heard before, so.
Okay, no,
Just really quick, Commissioner Benson, I'm going to hand the chair to you. I'm Gordon Ballard.
Just really quick, actually, on that comment, it kind of, the point is not conforming with societal norms associated with sex or gender. Sex and gender. It's not, I mean, it's redundant, I think, to say societal norms and being sex or gender, right?
So-
Say societal norms.
Societal norms,
We could actually just stop
Yeah.
societal norms.
yes.
Just leave it at societal norms and getting rid of and being sex or gender variant?
I like that.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Any other changes that anybody wants to make?
I do,
Commissioner Perez.
can you scroll down a little bit? Where you're naming, oh, there it is, where you're naming, spirit.
Yes. Thank you.
Commissioner Davis.
Just a comment, I just want to thank Commissioner Rao, you have spearheaded this as long as I've been on the commission, and as well as a personal thing.
No, this is a personal thing with me, so.
Thank you, Gary.
So, any other changes? Then I make a motion that we approve the proposed language for the historical marker that will be placed at 4th in Colorado. Second.
Okay. Thank you. So I have a motion by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Davis. I just wanted to make sure, since we need all those amendments read into the record, is there a motion to amend to change all mentions of LGBTQ to LGBTQIA+, to remove the hyphen before denigrated in the first paragraph, to say build community instead of community build in the fourth paragraph, in the fifth paragraph to put a comma after 2020, to remove a comma before continue in the final paragraph, to add abilities to the list in the first paragraph, to put a comma after churches in the fourth paragraph, to change during to throughout in the fourth paragraph, to strike and being sex or gender variant from the second paragraph, and to add two-spirit to the fourth paragraph.
Yes, and Commissioner Rivas noted to add it to say 1980s and
In
1990s. Yeah.
Did that also include the typo and span? Yeah. And then you mentioned the two-spirit.
Okay. Is there a motion for that amendment?
So moved.
I second.
There's another mic.
down.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Language been figured out?
Yes.
Well done. Ryan?
So the original motion to approve the recommendation was by, or approve this language was by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Davis. We have a motion on the table with all of the amendments that I just said. That's the amendment motion. Motion by Commissioner Brown, second by Vice Chair Benson.
Anyone, yeah, let's vote. Any other further comments? Okay. Everyone in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We've got, did we hear a nay or no? Okay, anyone opposed, please say nay. Okay, motion passes.
Thank you, everybody. Ryan, can you send out, like a clean copy and do that tomorrow, because, we need to get it over to, yeah.
Yeah, I have another commission meeting tomorrow, and I can send
Just
these
as a
edits.
next couple days, that'd be great.
Yeah, for sure.
So Morgan can put it on the HRC, agenda.
And I'm actually the staff liaison for the Human Rights
Okay,
Commission
yeah.
too, so we'll be able to sort all that out really
Thank
easily.
you.
One thing I will say, that was a vote on the motion to amend, we're back to the original question. Sorry, I know there's a clause in it. Yes, we had a motion by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Davis on the recommendation as a whole.
Okay, so as amended, okay. Everyone in favor of this subsequent, the initial motion? And the initial motion was what? Could you reread it?
The initial motion was to, approve the proposed language for the historical marker on Forest Street, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I know it feels repetitive. Everyone in favor, please say yay.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say nay. Okay, motion passes. There you go.
Thanks, everybody.
Commissioner Benson, would you also pass the final version so I can make that for
Okay, thank you for
I was gonna send it out.
and you have my recusing.
Passes at a 12 of the sharing your recused.
Gary, thank you for that, and I hope that was probably the most efficient way of handling that.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna start doing some retreat stuff. Yay. What I want to propose, try to come up with topics that allow for a lot of expansive conversation. And I know that there's this desire to have a lot of structure in some of these conversations, but I also think it's good to be fairly open and flexible and be able to adapt to the conversations that happen. And so I'd like to take up, I'd like to take up agenda item 6, discussion regarding the commission's work over the last year and the strategic direction of the commission, including which issues the commission should focus on in the coming year, and whether the commission should have more or less direct engagement with individuals in the community at meetings. This covers a lot. I did that on purpose. So what I'd like to do is just basically, one, reflect on what we have done, and then have people give their input on this. Then we're going to move to agenda item number 3. I think that at this point, it makes sense to have people go around, and we'll just have everyone speak their thoughts. I'm not going to do a timer yet, but if we get to the point, we'll start moving the timer. And so, Commissioner McLeod, I know we always have you first, and I am used to giving you a little more time. If this would like a little more time this time.
I can be short and sweet, and if you don't mind, if anything else pops up, at the end, I can share.
Of course.
I think after like ruminating on this a little bit, I feel that it is important for us as a commission to be able to lend our support, given where we are on this commission, as much as we can to our community. I mean, if we even think about just our last meeting, you know, policing of minority groups is largely societal issue. That, you know, it's a difficult one for us as a commission to take on for a number of reasons, but it is also very important for our Austin community, especially our Austin queer community. So I'm in support of how we can be as effective and efficient in continuing to help as many of our community members as possible as we can, given where we are in proximity to the city. Of course, within our capacity, but that's a whole other conversation that I think is pretty down on the agenda.
Commissioner Coyne, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the question, and I appreciate retreat opportunities for a discussion like this. And I think it feels like there's kind of two versions of work that we end up doing. Stuff that, you know, obviously community has access to hear what we talk about, provide input to what we talk about. A lot of what we end up doing, like just for an example, a budget recommendation. It's something that doesn't have a direct, like you can see the direct impact on community from the budget recommendation, at least not immediate impact. So I think it's important, obviously, that we're providing insight to council on where we think they should spend their money, where we think policy should go, et cetera. But the tangible direct impacts of things like the trans resource guide, I think balancing things that we can do that have a direct impact on vulnerable community with the policy advising that doesn't have as much of an immediate intangible is really critical, especially right now in our current political environment. I think in terms of the work and the strategic direction of the commission moving forward, it seems clear to me that things we've heard from community and we've seen from community and seen from other commissioners that are important are having very thoughtful conversations about policing. I think housing has regularly come up as a topic that is critical, especially for our most vulnerable. I think the cultural center is something that there is a wave of hopefully momentum we want to keep riding on, continuing to get council support and funding for seeing that through the task force. So that seems like a no-brainer to continue. And then I think providing direct support in whatever ways come up and continuing to steward the trans resource guide. Those three things seem really critical to me. I mean, four things rather. I think one of the ways that I could see us, and I think that the expectation of queers is that we're engaging effectively. I think there's generally an expectation that we're including folks even more than potentially other commissions and other communities that interface with commissions, that we are really meaningfully engaging and hearing from community in our work. I think that we've hosted a town hall that I feel was effective in starting some and continuing some conversations with community around the cultural center. But I think that if we could identify a handful maximum of 4 priorities each year and commit to quarterly hosting a town hall style meeting on that topic only, we would be really effective in getting deeper conversation from community and having deeper conversation amongst commissioners, rather than trying to do those in the midst of our regular meetings monthly. So just structure-wise, making sure that community members know 4 times a year, we're going to host a bigger meeting on these key topics and announce those topics ahead of time, and then the rest of the time the other meetings can cover the full range.
I'm curious if we want to waive Robert's Rules of Order for this conversation.
But
You know,
in what way?
well, just, you know, to be able to have this conversation, or do we feel it's more effective and efficient to just go one by one and everyone? But that's all I hear no support, so that's fine. Keep going.
Oh, I can stop there. If I have more, I'll bring up those revisions.
Commissioner Rivas, do you have any thoughts on?
Well, this is a much shorter list than I saw Ryan send me. It was a lengthy list. I had all these comments.
Feel free to go into this.
You know, I think this is a great idea. I'm going to defer to the experience of commissioners that have served. And I know we all want to talk about the last meeting. And I just want to reflect other commissioners' concerns. If we ever have a public safety meeting, everybody needs to know where it's at. People were comfortable, not just with law enforcement officers, but guns in the room was very triggering. This is not 1985, and I think some people in our community and leadership often don't recognize just how rapidly in 5 years what this commission oversees has changed and continues to change. So I think it's wise to consolidate on these topics, and I do think that affordability, or housing, public safety are two key areas that we should focus on. I think another is our queer-owned businesses. You know, I'm privileged to have served as the general manager of one of our gay bars in this town. I should say Queer Safe Space now. That was OCH. We had a very different organization at the time than what exists. But I saw firsthand how it is very difficult to be a business owner in this community, even more so if you're LGBTQIA+. And so I would just say that we have to find a way, if we're going to have a quarterly meeting, to include our small business owners and talk about how we can support and uplift them for city policy and initiatives that come from this commission. And I would just defer to the rest of the commissioners. I think this is a great starting list, and thank you so much for putting all the effort and work into that. Thank you so much, Mr.
Commissioner Van, do you have any thoughts?
I like what I've heard so far. I second what I've heard so far, and then I would also add protections whenever it comes to a lot of these bills that are being passed, and responding to that as well.
Commissioner Benson.
I think we've done a great job this last year. And I think this is a great time for us to kind of look back at what we've done and the historical perspective of what I've been hearing this last year, which is other commissioners are looking at us and the work that we're doing and saying that this is how commissions should run. That we've gotten the attention of the city manager, the chief of police, the mayor pro tem, and a lot of other folks. We've gotten a lot of great voices. We've gotten our community engaged. We have people coming to our meetings. We're engaged as commissioners. We're engaged in the work. What we're doing is making a difference and matters. And our community is very vulnerable and will continue to be more vulnerable, I think, in the coming years. So the work we're doing right now is really good. And I think I'm proud of us. I'm proud of you guys, what we've been doing and continue to do. And having said that, I think there are some community priorities that I think we'll continue to focus on. And I'm sure you guys know, many problems, one solution for me, and it's a community center. I think that is a way that we can really establish a place to give a lot of these problems voice, give a lot of places for people to find these solutions under one roof. But I think we can continue to provide services through budget recommendations. There are vulnerable populations that we house trans people who need our help. And the best tool that we as a commission have, I think, is through budget and the power of the purse. That's always been the biggest power of any legislative body. And we continue to advocate our community, I think, through that. I think improved policing and being able to reliably give feedback and partner with APD to prevent any horrible tragedies to occur, but being able to have those communications, not with APD, but other departments. And lastly, I guess for me, I think a focus on healthcare over the next year. I think we're going to see funding for vaccination programs, PrEP, other things that really affect our community start to evaporate on a federal level, and what we can do on a city level to kind of compensate or advocate for our community. As far as the engagement piece, I love the engagement that we're seeing with our community. And I think I've always been a proponent of quarterly town halls. It's a lot of planning, a lot of work, but I think we see benefits. If anything, the last town hall really gave us a pulse on what the community wants and needs, and being able to reliably engage with our constituents, because we are elected. We are here to represent the people of the city. I think that's important. Those are my thoughts.
Commissioner Brown.
It's been a real honor to be here over the last year. I strive to be Charles Curry, being the oldest person on this commission. I won't get there, but that's okay. I really want to talk about what happened at our last meeting. I think what transpired at our last meeting, for lack of better words, was unfortunate. I understand some of the feelings some of you have regarding APD. I get it. However, we are extensions of City Council. And as such, we have a duty to be able to meet with every department as it pertains to our community. On behalf of our brothers and sisters, we must interact and engage with APD for the very reasons that were stated by some of you that night and what will probably be stated tonight. And I know that it's painful. I see it. But can you imagine what would happen if half of council got up and left the dais when a department was called up to meet with them? They would never hear the end of it. As an aside, if you didn't know that APD was going to be at the meeting, that is on you. Sorry. These agendas are posted on the Fridays before our meetings. And if you don't see the agenda and know that APD was going to be there, I'm sorry, but that's on you. Look, we are all here because someone saw each of us as a leader, whether it's someone on council or people in this room bringing stakeholders in. Everybody in here is a leader. Someone has seen us be a leader. And sometimes as leaders, we have to confront people we are not comfortable with.
I want to point out that Katie has her hand up.
That's all I have to say right now.
Are you, so just to be clear, Commissioner Brown, you still have the floor. Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay. Commissioner Brown.
Good answer.
Commissioner McLeod, go ahead.
I just want to respond, and I'll make it short and sweet. Although each and every one of us are leaders, each and every one of us is also a person. And I think it's really important that as we move forward in these uncertain times, that we give everybody the opportunity to show up as their best selves. And me personally, I prefer a trauma-informed approach. I don't think anyone is objecting having conversations with APD. I told Scott previously before that meeting, I have my own personal reservations and feelings. I don't feel safe around police officers. I don't feel safe around guns all the time. But I think it's less about us having a conversation and how we pride us as a group and our community about having this conversation. And I think it's an important discussion. Nobody got up and left. Nobody refused to be engaged in the discussion. but I think that we can be really intentional about how we move forward.
Agreed. Thank you for those words.
Yeah, I also want to add, this feels like I'm gonna try to be nice. I'm gonna try to be tactful. Let me find it for a second.
While you're waiting, let's go ahead and give the official for Commissioner Brookins.
Great, I appreciate that. So I don't appreciate the idea of like telling us that we have to engage with APD when it feels like there are not a lot of other departments that have come here and like been met with the same like forcefulness that it feels like a number of people are coming in here with you have to engage with them. I also want to raise up, and I agree with Kitty saying that we need to be given a heads up. Like, community members need to be given a heads up. It was said by multiple people at the town hall that they did not appreciate that APD was there and they were not given a heads up. Because we know that some people, including me, including Kitty, including a lot of people that talked at the March 17th meeting, don't feel comfortable just being involved with a police officer with no warning. Even a 3-day warning is not that much of a warning, Gary. I think that how are we supposed to represent the needs of our community when we can't even represent the needs of our commission? That's how I feel. I don't think you're representing the needs of our commission if at our March 17th meeting, 8 people, when I listened to that audio recording, said that they felt uncomfortable or that they felt like we needed to be given a heads up, and we were not given more than a 3-day heads up. That is not okay to me. And trying to like force me or any other commissioner into a conversation where we can't show up as our best selves because we're not even given the decency of talking about it and agreeing on it as a commission before it is just sprung upon us, makes it so the last meeting happened. And I really, really, really don't like it when we don't work as a commission is supposed to, which means we are supposed to use consensus, right? We do aye and nay at every single meeting. That was not a consensus choice. So I just did not appreciate it as a commissioner, and I did not appreciate being told, right, indirectly, can you imagine what would happen if the council got up and left? I didn't see anybody get up and leave during that meeting, even though a lot of what I feel like hurtful things were said. Like there were things that the police officer said, and there were things that other commissioners said that I felt like were hurtful. But I did not get up and leave because I know that I signed up to be a commissioner. But the very least that we can do for each other is not invalidate how each other feels, right? Like these feelings about police, they are historical. They are like bone deep for me as a Black trans person living in this city. So I'm gonna ask that everybody in here, Gary and others, do not invalidate how people feel, all right, about interacting with APD. Do not invalidate our community, because I've heard directly from a number of people that they don't feel comfortable with it. And if they were given an adequate heads up, they could show up as their best selves. So that's what I have to say on that.
I appreciate it. Commissioner Kruger.
Yeah, I'm just feeling the energy of the moment. Thank you for speaking out. I think it's important for us to have these conversations. I'm struggling to pivot. Okay. In terms of discussion of work over the past year, some things that I'll note that I think have been positive. I've seen increased press for our commission and just general engagement with the community. And I think there are lots of people to thank for that. It's been the work of a number of folks here through social media, through connections, businesses, et cetera, to help raise the profile of the commission. I think that's increased community engagement, and I think that's a positive thing because we're here to be representatives for the community and engage. So I think that's good. I also think the trans resource guide has been a big part of that, and so appreciate all of you who have been working on that, and the stickers and the physical copy, the digital copy. That is such an incredible asset that I hear people talking about, and it makes me feel really good when I see it out in the world. And how fortunate am I to know the people who originated that idea. Just really proud of that, so thank you. In terms of priorities for the next year, absolutely continuing to move the cultural center forward. I think that's a good point of focus for us. I'll also say healthcare broadly, I think is just so important, whether it's gender affirming care, STI testing, or just healthcare in general. I think it's critical, and I think especially with the cuts we're seeing at the federal level and the state level, this is a space where the city really needs to set up. I would also say affordability and housing. I'm so grateful for the presentation we had tonight from Family Elder Care, because I think I haven't known exactly how to pursue LGBTQIA plus specific affordable housing because of federal housing laws when it comes to demographic info. So seeing that as an example was interesting for me to say, okay, there is a template of how to do this, how to use the language to make it possible. So curious to see how we can continue to do more permanent supportive housing and supportive housing for our community. And lastly, I would say just being responsive generally to community needs, being flexible, whether that is coming from bills that happen at the state or increased police presence on 4th or elsewhere. I think being able to respond to different needs as they come up is important. And I would like to expand our view of public safety beyond just the police, to think more about community safety, which again, I do think is about housing, it's about healthcare, it's about education, and also bringing in allies like the county attorney and district attorney and their role in holding police accountable, and it's kind of being an umbrella of protection from certain state laws for us. So I'd love to include them into some conversations as well. That's all I have. Thank you.
I think we probably lost heroes. Okay. Commissioner Anderson, are you, there you go.
Yes. Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Great. Starting with discussion of item 6. First of all, thanks for these topics. I do feel like I've only been on the commission since the beginning of last year, and I do feel like we have gotten a lot of things done, from like the trans, like city protections being passed last year, our trans resource guide, moving forward with the cultural center. So I do want to just take a moment to acknowledge that all of us put in our labor, to this and to showing up to this, and we really have done so much just in my time as commissioner. So thank you, everyone. I want to see us continue to address the issues that we are addressing. I will touch on policing is something that is still like an important topic for me. I do echo that, like, I felt like I was a bit caught off guard last meeting. I also did have to leave the meeting early because I did have a work engagement, which is why I was in drag. So I'm just addressing that. But that had nothing to do with the conversation. I engaged with the police about my concerns as a community stakeholder representing the community. I think these are important conversations that as a commission it is our place to address, because we are seeing legislation that could potentially make trans people a felony, right? So someone like me who is trans, who has changed my documents, what does that look like if that becomes law? As a police officer, as an APD person going to arrest me at, at my apartment, these are obviously we're not there yet. These are just concerns. I'm just going to use an I statement for myself, but I do know these are concerns that the general community has, and what that's going to look like, as Texas shapes up with this legislative session. So I think we need to keep addressing these difficult topics. And also, as far as discussion item 3, I do think it is well within, since this is a quality of life commission, there are so many things that affect a person's quality of life. And so to try to like separate immigration or affordable housing from our community does not make sense, especially because these intersectionalities, we know that we're going to take care of our community the best in regards to this. So like, just not, you know, not showing up in regards to like, oh, we'll just trust that the housing department is gonna take care of LGBTQ housing. I don't think that that's necessarily the case. As we see here, we have, you know, family elder care being able to move forward with their LGBTQ-centric housing. That's because they're an LGBTQ-centric organization, right? So I think it is well within our right to continue to address all of these things that make up intersectionalities for our community, because it affects everyone's quality of life in our city, our community's quality of life in our city, and that's what we're here to do. So,
forgive me, Commissioner Anderson, we are going to take up agenda item 3 next, just so you know.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, just want to let you know.
That's all I have. I think we just need to keep doing the hard work that we're doing, and yeah, let's keep going.
Commissioner Brookins, back to you.
Very quickly, I agree with a lot of what people have said. The Trans Resource Guide is great. They don't need a new chair because I'm leaving in July, so it would be great to be able to get a new chair by the end of the July meeting, ideally by the end of June meeting. I did say in our last meeting notes to talk about that as an item, so I would love it if we actually took that up and assigned that. I also think the other priorities, yeah, so housing, also continuing to move in the right direction with the cultural center, sound like great things to focus on. Some of my personal highlights are getting 1,100 resource guides disseminated to different places around Austin. I think that's really awesome, and to continue that momentum would be great. I know I have an order, thanks to Commissioner Joe Vincent's support. I know I have an order of 350 of them coming to my door pretty soon, and I also know, thanks to Commissioner Coyne's work, that the District 2 Mayor Pro Tem's office has agreed to do another printing of 1,000. So we're moving in a good direction, and I would love for it not to fall off just because I'm not here. So it would be great to, for sure, get that on the next meeting agenda. Yeah, that's it. I already said everything earlier too.
Well, I mean, while we're talking about this, I would like to see if anyone has any interest in taking on the chair role of this working group for the Trans Resource. I think this is something that KB has been, now we're on meeting 2 or 3 of making us aware, and I'm committed to getting this issue resolved. I just want everyone to be thinking about it, because I'm going to push someone into it by the end of this meeting, so be prepared. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
On the agenda, I'm sorry.
It's covered on the agenda. We'll have to take care of it next time for the actual being on the working group, but it is a future item. Let me see.
Yeah.
It's something that we, let me get the language. Which areas the commission needs to focus on the coming year. This is one of the, as far as I'm concerned. But when it comes to actually appointing someone into the working group, that will need to be on the next month's agenda.
Yeah, if I may. I had a lot of people reach out to me when I was appointed. The number one, from physicians to social workers, the number one issue that everybody said, Steve, you can do anything to protect and help our trans community. So this has to be a priority.
Yeah, I want to also add that the chair of the Resource Guide Working Group is not more than like 2 hours a week of work. So what you need to do is just be in constant communication with the D2 Mayor Pro Tem's office to make sure that they, keep moving along with printing them. Also, I can give you the information for the printer that we currently use, and then call in meetings as needed with the working group. So it's not a heavy lift. It'd be great if someone was interested.
Commissioner Davis.
All of the above. One of the needs I see is people I love hurting. And especially with something that is as critical to us as our safety. But also, I love what you just said about the safety in this group. How we take care of our community is always taken care of each other. We've always had to. I don't know if it's possible or how the wording would look to have a liaison from our group to the, thank you, to have a liaison with Austin Police Department, to have a point person, so one person can come forward with concerns and then bring them back. And that way, apologies, I don't know the particular timetable. You mentioned a schedule put out every 3 days. And that preparation time, knowing that this is a sensitive topic, all right? Okay, we're looking at this, how does this look like? What does this look like? And everybody on board. Is that possible, or is that a resolution or a working group, or to promote a liaison? Also love what Commissioner Kruger said. There are so many outlets that we have with the district attorney's office, with the county clerk's office. There's so many people on our side that we have resources to. Is that possible to have a liaison? It's awesome, police department from our group, excuse me, commission.
If that's the question, I think this commission can designate anyone to be a representative when it comes to speaking with APD, if that's what it chooses to do. I think that's certainly a discussion as to whether or not we're diminishing our force by allowing APD to, let me take a step back and say, I need to think about my arguments for why I think it's better for the whole commission to be the representative, but I hear there are benefits to that too. So if y'all wanted to do, I think there's no problem.
Thank you. Just as an advocate and as someone who has been in law enforcement for quite a while.
Yeah.
I see the good and unfortunately sometimes the bad.
Yeah.
But I think one, to have a
Could you
sworn
speak up,
representative-
please?
My apologies. Could you speak up?
Put the mic up higher.
No, understood, but I would like very much to look into a liaison.
Commissioner Davis, are you?
Oh, that's all. Just thank you all for your incredible work and everyone's courage.
Commissioner Davis, you have your hand up.
Thank you so much. I'm privileged to have served as a consultant to public safety agencies throughout the U.S. and Canada. I also have a background in law enforcement, been a paramedic, been a 911 dispatcher, been a trainer to public safety folks across the U.S. and Canada. And I think Commissioner Kruger's statement is just on point. We have to be real careful as a commission when we talk about public safety, because there's already a public safety commission. But I do like that verbiage of community safety, which just kind of envelops so much more from community health, community paramedicine, which we could use some of that on 4th Street. I, for a long time, somebody that's run a bar and been responsible for the patrons and customers, staff of the bar. I've always worried about incidents. For those that have not been in the bar business, you do not want any law enforcement items on the address of that business, because TABC pulls that for licensing checks. So I was really surprised to learn, and I could talk for probably 2 hours about, but I'm not. But there is an LGBTQIA plus APD personnel and staff. They told us that. Well, I don't know if that individual gets a 3-day notice of what this meeting is. But we need to be everywhere moving forward as this commission. We need to be at every possible city spot for policy to understand it, be visible. And I think that community safety is the umbrella term that we should all use moving forward so that we have no conflict. That was just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Commissioner Trevino.
There's been a lot of great things said, so I won't repeat everything. I did want to thank Commissioner Perkins and Ms. Platt for your comments regarding our last meeting, and just echo the sentiment of having an equity and trauma-informed approach to these difficult conversations. I second a lot of also what Commissioner Kruger said in terms of priorities for this next year. I've only been here for about half a year so far, and seen a lot of great stuff. in terms of the kind of more directly impactful things that you were talking about are really important, I think maybe depending on what comes out of the ledge, maybe doing some type of educational materials and follow-up resources, be able to respond to that to our community would be great. And then I probably have capacity to serve on the working group for the trans resource guide, possibly more. I don't know if I'm the best person for that as a cisgender person, but I want to help how I can, and we definitely won't let that down.
Commissioner Coyle.
I just wanted to, this is small, a follow-up comment, but I'd rather make it through everyone first. Just wanted to be on your list.
Go ahead.
Two things. I think, another thing that I think we do need more attention on is following up on the recommendations that we make. And whether that's budget or anything else that we recommend that doesn't have like a direct, hey, we're giving Christine a list of names from the task force. I think that we need a more specific focus on how each of us are going to take responsibility for following up with our council members and even potentially going to City Hall to speak on some of the items that are critical to the commission.
I would suggest that that's something that should be discussed sort of, on how commission meetings are run, including advice from the chair, vice chair, staff liaison, right? Things that we, we should go ahead and work through some of this. Let me finish with, I believe I'm the only one that hasn't said.
I have one other item.
Go ahead.
I do just want to speak on what has already been brought up around the last meeting. As a white person, when I'm hearing from folks in our community that something has been harmful, the last thing I'm going to do is comment on the tone or behavior or actions that they have decided to take to protect themselves, or comment on potentially how we should or shouldn't address meetings like that in the future. And while I deeply respect you, Gary, as a commissioner, you bring a lot of experience. You, not to call out your age, but you are the oldest on the commission, but
I get it.
you
I get
have
it.
so much history in our community. And I think you came with a prepared statement on that. Is that right?
Because I didn't
Because
want to
it
forget
feels
it.
emotional, right?
It's emotional.
But the fact that it feels that emotional to you, but did you reach out to anyone one-on-one to talk about it? I'm not trying to call you out, I promise.
I get it. I get it. I was really thankful that everybody was real honest. When I say it was unfortunate, I meant that the situation, not what really anybody said. I think, I think a lot of, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. That's one of the things my mom taught me, or tried to instill in me. And I'm not always the best. I don't think well off the cuff. I have to write it down and then read it. I'm not trying to denigrate anybody, really. But I think that we have to have an ongoing discussion with APD.
Yeah.
And I would also add, APD doesn't run the jail in this county. So we might want to think about, and they're not the city, but we might want to have Travis County Sheriff's Office come and talk about, what happens when a member of our community, especially a transgender person, is arrested and booked into the jail. We need to know what that is.
And I think it sounds like we're on the same page about willingness to have conversations.
Yes.
And open to that. I think the statement was patronizing.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be patronizing.
And
I apologize.
if we're creating a culture of accountability and safety and care for each other first and extending out to community, I really hope that we can be more careful in the way we're bringing these kinds of conversations forward.
I'm with you.
Okay.
I will, I guess with that, I'll go ahead and get my piece up. No, this commission's difficult. Our community is difficult. It's a difficult one because we represent so many, and we are made up of such a diverse, group of individuals. And what brings us together, it's not, the commonality is harder to identify, and so that makes running a commission more difficult in my mind. I think it also, unfortunately, makes us all more easy to target. It makes it easier for us to focus on our differences and divide each other, and do ourselves harm in the larger mission of trying to protect each other. And that is some of the weariness. That's something I'm weary of happening. I see it going on. I see it on multiple fronts, and social media, and just what people do. They're fearful, which I think is currently the state of mind, which is instead of focusing on the larger enemy, we're going to start tearing down the friends that we may not fully, yeah, I'll move on. Historically, I think when we stick together, we are stronger. And, I recognize there's criticism that we're going to turn to APD. I recognize there's criticism over my decision to bring on APD at, our meeting. And I think it's important that we put that out there, that what this actually is a criticism of my leadership. I think that's important that I put that out there. The timing is important. So, I try to do the best I can when it comes to tackling relevant, pressing issues that the community is dealing with right now, and also being strategic and thoughtful on issues that need that. I think there's a hybrid approach that we have to take. The cultural center is a long-term goal, and that's something that takes a lot of planning. A trans individual, getting, I don't want to get too graphic here, but violently assaulted by APD on video, raising it up into the community, having a major, spotlight on this, that's something that, in my opinion, that has to get addressed pretty quickly. The pressure and the momentum to make change based on that evaporates in a month or two. So, I stand by my position on calling APD to the table. I'm sorry it was difficult. We should have done a better job of making sure that the public was aware. That I regret.
I'm gonna say something.
Okay, I'm not done.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So, for me, it's a hard position to be in. And I know I have lessons to learn. And I just, I ask for a little bit of grace in this process. And I apologize if I offended anyone or put anyone in a difficult position that made them feel unsafe. That is never my goal. The goal here, I think the reason why we're all here, is to make impactful change. And that is, that's what we've been trusted to do, is to represent our constituents and city council and figure out how the engagement between the constituents and the city's offices can be improved. And so for me, I think it's important that we engage with all departments. I agree with Kitty. There can be a more thoughtful way of doing it, especially if we're not feeling a need to react to something that's pressing. And there should be a more thoughtful way of doing it than what's occurred. It has to be more thoughtful. I recognize that. What I am really proud of is what we've done over the last year. And all, we've made work on a Austin preservation equality, plan. We've done a lot of work to try to protect the trans community on multiple different fronts, sexual health care, dealing with the deeper prioritization of its criminalization and prosecution with APD, the trans guidebook. I think that the historical landmark on 4th Street, I've got a number of things here. 2 town halls. We changed our meeting location from, the PUD to City Hall, where we belong. I think we've done a really good job of bringing in more diverse commissioners, and amplifying voices, from our trans and non-binary communities. And Marianne's right, we have had a lot more media engagement, and more media engagement in general means more awareness, and with that comes more influence and more power. And that's stuff I'm really proud of. And, most of y'all know that I'm stepping down as chair of this today. But looking back, that's something I'm very proud of, all of it. I'm almost done. What I want to say, though, is that the reason why we've been able to get all of that done is by taking a hybrid approach, focusing on 2, maybe 3 long-term goals, and having a little bit of space to handle things as they come up. And whether we want to continue that or not, I don't know. I think that where we're at right now is a little stretched. We're a little stretched too thin. And I think we feel that pressure. So my request would be, let's focus less on, things that come up as emergency measures. I recognize the stress that brought up this last time, and let's focus on 2 or 3 main core goals. And then I would say also, I really believe that we've been able to get so much done because we're focusing on progress and not on perfection. Perfection's great, but when we focus on perfection, we will not get anything done. And I think that's what will lead us to be an ineffective commission and lose commissioners. So that's what I got. Commissioner Brookins, please go ahead.
Sure. I think it's unfortunate that I feel like I have been made into like an adversary in this conversation. I say that based on like separate correspondences that I've had with you, Scott, and then this also like patronizing thing from you, Gary. And I want y'all to know, like, I don't know how this is being construed as me saying like police officers should never come to our meetings ever. I am saying that it just makes sense to get a heads up. And it was disappointing to me that people said that at the March 17th meeting, and then we still, at the last meeting, were not given an adequate heads up. That is what I'm saying, all right? I don't have any kind of bad blood with either of y'all. However, I'm feeling like both of y'all are seeing what I'm saying in a different way than what I'm actually saying. What I'm saying is, if we want people of color, if we want people who formerly experienced homelessness, people with records, people who just have adversarial relationships to come to these meetings, we need to be more thoughtful with the way that we have or don't have police officers in these meetings. We need to be more thoughtful with the way that we're saying, well, we just have to meet with city departments. We haven't met with the fire department while I've been on this commission. We haven't met with EMS while I've been on this commission. I haven't felt pressure to meet with affordable housing folks, even though it's great when they come. But I feel a particular pressure to meet with APD in a way that feels like, why, to me. And also, it felt very disappointing for me to listen to the March 17th meeting where multiple people said that they did not feel comfortable with police present, and also where multiple people said, hey, we need to talk and have a clear reason as to why they are here. And then Rocio even gave a suggestion of a Veterans Affairs place that Texas Freedom Network works with. So like, if we want to entertain the idea of having safety at our meetings that are not police, then we can entertain that idea, right? And I also brought up that it's not just a me thing, like multiple community members have also said that they did not appreciate at the town hall that that we have police present and we didn't give people a heads up. And also, community members said at our last meeting that they did not appreciate that we have police present and did not give a heads up. So I also think like we use consensus in this commission, to my understanding. So if we're gonna completely disregard what the most of the commission says in favor of 1 or 2 or 3 people, that feels like we're not using consensus. That feels like we're being like forced into one direction. So that is what I have to say. I have only heard, you know, in this meeting, X amount of people say this and then X amount of people say that, and I feel like it's just, it feels thoughtless to just like invite police officers here and then justify that by like, well, we have to meet with them. When in fact, we should talk as a commission and talk about like when it's necessary for them to be here and when we can use alternatives. That is how I feel. I personally like the idea of having a liaison, so it's one person that goes and speaks with PD that feels more comfortable to do that, and then reporting back, and then when necessary, them coming completely here when we all agree on that. But what I don't appreciate is being put in a position where, you know, I only have 3 days to get myself ready to have, you know, where Commissioner Kruger is today, like 3 police officers with guns next to me. I am not your adversary. I am a fellow commission member. I don't like the indirectness that has been happening in this meeting. I don't like this like, you know, telling me and other people who feel the same way as me that we need to just suck it up. I don't like that. And I don't think that's actually in service of the majority of this commission and how the majority of this commission feels about police presence at this. And I am not speaking on anybody's behalf. I'm speaking literally just based on the audio that I heard at the March 17th meeting. So if y'all have more to say to me, say it to me directly after this meeting. But like, I can't do the back and forth, like indirectness. And I want to keep this commission as a positive experience for everybody, and I think that the way that it can be that way is if we actually use consensus. Like sometimes it's not gonna be what you want, and that's okay, right? Like we voted on things before that haven't been one-to-one with my values, but we used consensus and I was okay with that. So I ask that everybody, regardless of you are a chair, vice chair, an incoming chair, or vice chair, to just move more democratically with those decisions in the future.
Well, Mr. Chair, if I may. Look, it was a timely thing. I don't perceive anyone here attacking anyone. I hope you don't feel attacked. I had friends in South Africa that saw the video of what happened and forwarded that to me. So I think the timeliness of this commission responding as quickly to a digital media assault of someone in our community, whether they're Austinites or not, everybody knows that this is a safe community and should always be viewed that way. Now, I'm going to say this one time. We can talk about the police forever in this room. I certainly can, because I view it from somebody that's been a consultant, that's been sworn in. I have questions about what goes in the computer, if it's a directed patrol. I have all sorts of questions I could ask forever. But I do think that we should speak united as one commission for those people that cared about me and my husband that were on 6th Street that saw this video. And I think the timeliness and the cohesiveness, and I think the honesty. Gary's right. Look, if he's talking about we speak together as one commission, and the expectation is of the public that we give notice or toma of when the next meeting is, everyone on this commission should have an understanding who's on it. How the specific agenda item was worded to get them here, I don't know. But I have questions that the legal department probably would need to hear. So again, I do think, Ryan, at some point we need to schedule, or at least come up with a list of questions for legal and see if we can have a private meeting that's closed. but I don't think anybody's being attacked. What I learned from that meeting is the rawness of the community. There are people that are terrified, not just of people with guns and badges, but the trigger for that could be a sexual assault incident in their lives. It could be something that happened with their parents individually. It could be that they were at the Pulse nightclub. I saw all sorts of concerns of mine that all went to training and how we train our public safety personnel in the city of Austin. We didn't have the chance to ask those questions that night. And I think part of this discussion from Gary, myself, everyone in this room is we need to have a follow-up, just a public safety discussion. So that would be, I think that needs to be a top priority. On line 6 that we're talking about is community safety. And just to talk about what the mechanics of that might be, I don't like one person from this committee, or commission rather, maybe going to talk with APD. I think that's the position of the chair and vice chair. I think we need a secretary. So I'm gonna give the floor back and just say, thank you for inviting them for a very timely issue. Thank you, Commissioner, for being outspoken about your fear. And thank you, Commissioner, for bringing to light your concern about all of us acting together. This is a difficult community, to say the least, but it should never be a difficult commission.
Can I say something? I just want to express that there was a lot of concern about police officers being here from the community, right? And as somebody with a large platform who is constantly sharing this commission and inviting community members here, I felt really responsible and like really bad when I heard the response from community members that come to my events that I want them to feel safe and welcome into these spaces, turn around and say, I did not know that. And maybe if we had a little bit more awareness or warning, or just like, it just needs to be more public and outspoken, right? Instead of, I'm sitting here promoting, trying to get the community engaged here all month long, and then 3 days before, you know, we scheduled the cops here. And I think even if that was necessary, there could be a more mindful way to go about it where, you know, I don't think it was necessary for them to come with all their gear and equipment and stuff like that. I think even if they just came with like a button up and pants, that would have been a little bit more tolerable for community members when we do have to address things and a certain time limit. I'm sorry, y'all, I'm so tired right now. I'm just trying my best, but I think my biggest concern was the feedback of community members who I do invite to this space, and I felt really just terrible about that. So that's all.
Yeah, Commissioner Bennett, I hear you on that, and that I do apologize. I mean, I don't, there's some of this where, what do we do? You know, I expected Chief Davis to show up, you know, and then an hour beforehand, I get notice that Assistant Chief is coming instead. I did not expect these others to come. It's a public meeting. You cannot choose, you cannot push people, you can't tell people not to come. I mean, like, they could show up right now. We can't do anything about it. It's public. That's the nature of this commission. I do hear you on trying to make sure the public is informed. It's hard to control all of these parameters. And I think that I feel your frustration and pain, literal pain, on having your own followers and, you know, end up negatively impacted by, you know, that last meeting, unexpectedly so on their behalf. You know, and for that I apologize. I don't know what I could do other than promote it more on social media, you know. Yeah. This is, honestly, this is what we should be talking about, is how do we move forward? This is less in my mind about what are we doing in the past, although there is an agenda item here, I think, feedback. But really, it's how do we as a commission want to do this differently moving forward, right?
Chair Kitty has her hand up.
Okay. Commissioner McLeod.
Yes, and also, coffee, I was going to say. I wanted to respond to a couple of things that I heard, and also wanted to follow up and say, I really hope that it didn't come across like I was trying to throw our chair under the bus. I spoke with Scott previously already and said that I was uncomfortable with APD coming, but I've also said that it was an important conversation. I don't think that any of this is about whether APD is present or not. I think it's about how we frame this conversation, because as it was on the agenda, I thought we were having a discussion about what we wanted to ask of APD. It was not understood that this was going to be a discussion with APD. And I think as we move forward, there is a real importance to being slow and strategic and calculated, and also moving swiftly. There has to be a balance between the two. I am totally understanding and in support of us moving.
We lost your audio, Commissioner McLeod.
I found out. I think that there's importance of us being able to find the balance between the two. I'm appreciative that we moved swiftly, as this was something that happened that really did devastate a number of people. Many people were incredibly disappointed. I'm glad that we had the conversation, but I do think that we can consider if we're going to make a decision as a group on what are our objectives of this talking point. I think that's helpful. And I'll leave it at that.
If we could go and move on to agenda. If we could go ahead and move on to agenda item number 3. Commissioner Coyne, you're the last one. Go ahead.
Sure, I was just trying to transition a little bit to, okay, what are we doing about it in the future?
Yeah.
I think it would make sense if we could come to agreement on key topics, and maybe the only one right now is anything related to APD having an actual platform to speak and be invited to speak at our meeting, that, yeah, we have a minimum requirement for notice for the city to be posting our agendas. I think we can have a discussion as a commission about what actual level of notice we think is appropriate to give community for specific items. And then I think we could also have a conversation about, and we talked about this before, if we have policing and APD specifically coming to a meeting, in my opinion, it should be the only item on the agenda, which is why I think it needs to be consolidated to a town hall. If we have APD invited formally to have a platform at our meeting, and there are other items on the agenda, but even one person decides it doesn't feel safe to come be in the room with APD, that is an access issue for me on the other items. So in my opinion, we need to have a conversation about what notice looks like, how it's being communicated on key issues that we need to be more sensitive about, and whether or not, how we frame up and what container we have that discussion in.
I know I'm going to keep going because I think a lot of these things cover each other, but discussion regarding whether the commission should take up LGBTQIA plus specific components of larger societal issues, such as immigration or affordable housing, or rely on other commissions to address those issues. The reason why this is on, we've gotten some requests for, agenda items that that are very much in the ballpark of whether it's affordable housing or undocumented immigrants or whatever else that the city has another commission for, but also happens to involve the LGBTQ community. I would like for this commission to sort of discuss the larger issue that I, as a chair, have had to sort of juggle with when it comes to navigating the agendas, because I know I'm not going to be here, and I want future chairs future chairs to have this in mind. So I'm not going to call around with everyone. I'm just curious if people have any thoughts on this issue. Yeah.
Well, I do have some questions. So for the flow, when there's a policy decision or a policy goal, like a cultural center from the commission, So we don't have a secretary for this commission, so there's nobody actually like tracking anything other than the city staff. Is that correct?
Yeah, and there is a discussion about, providing in the bylaws that we add a secretary position. And that's something that Frank would like to do, but, yeah.
And then a follow-up question, Mr. Chair, and Ryan's last thing I'll ask. So in our bylaws, can we include some type of a safety disclosure if we are going to have a member of, let's just say, Texas term is a peace officer, an armed peace officer that will be in attendance at one of our meetings or town hall that our commission could have in our bylaws? We want in our notice specific, just a disclaimer that, hey, there may be, and this is one of those triggering things that we were talking about earlier, just a notice that perhaps to the public that there's an awareness that there will be armed peace officers at that meeting. I don't think that's a big ask, but that is a clarification that I would like to know.
Yeah, that'd be a question for the law department.
Can we get an answer from that, Mr. Chair? That's something in the future, and who would track that if we were?
If you could send just via email that specifically what the bylaw amendment might look like or what it would be, then I can forward that along to the law department and get an answer for you.
And the flow for clarification on something like that, that goes to an email to Chair, Vice Chair, and you?
Send an email to the chair, or, in general, the chairs themselves would be the one that reached out to the city clerk, in my opinion, although there's a process of amending the bylaws. The city clerk would then get back to you on whether or not they could be amended and how their view is on that. That's my understanding, and then would help work out the process with the leadership of the commission. The commission, after working with the city clerk, would come back and take up a motion to amend the bylaws. It would then go through the process of having to be approved by city council.
Okay, thank you for that.
This is one of few commissions that is staffed directly by a staff member of the office of the city clerk, so, yeah, you are always welcome to.
We appreciate you, Ryan. Yeah, so back to the question, basically, this is an issue that as chair, I struggle with, because it gets back into what I had talked about, a year ago and 2 years ago when I, sort of became chair, which was focusing on 2 or 3 core items that are specific to our community that allow us to really hone in and get it done. And when my instinct is there, and I don't know if it's correct. And so my instinct is to not get distracted or focus on items that are in someone else's, ballpark, because that distracts us from the core issues that are unique to our own community. And I think that what I wanted to do is have this conversation because I could be wrong, and I want to make sure that I'm, or that the next chair is cognizant of how this commission feels about this issue as they're setting agenda items. Commissioner Brown, Commissioner Benson.
Yes. Speaking on this item 3, I think it's important to that point that we collaborate with these other commissions. The JIC is a great place for us to collaborate. You have the diversity communities, but as far as issues, we may not always be the expert, and it's great to be able to pull in someone like housing. They may have stuff in motion, or that commission may have more knowledge that they can impart on us. So we can bring that. We are the rainbow, right? We encompass all communities, and our membership spans everywhere, and we represent everyone. But I think we should still follow the procedure of any member motions and seconds as new business that we continue to accept that as a standard procedure. But yeah, that also helps us keep a pulse on the community as people face these different issues.
Any other thoughts on this subject? Commissioner, Brookins.
Yeah, I want to give context to this. So, a number of months ago, I saw online at the beginning of the Trump presidency that, immigrants in our community were being specifically targeted in, what do you call it? Targeted by ICE, right? So I did separately kind of reach out and say like, hey, could we have an item on queer immigrants? I think I even said this in a meeting. My specific idea behind that was there are immigrant populations in our community, and also the least that we could do as a commission, if people are interested in this, is reach out to LGBTQ plus owned businesses and like ask them to maybe put a basic like know your rights thing outside of their doors that's like, hey, you can't just come in here and like pick someone up. You have to talk to, you have to have a warrant signed by a judge, right? So that was my idea. It didn't go, that is what it is. But I do think it's important, and I want to raise up maybe something that Commissioner Anderson said earlier, which is like, we are the LGBTQ plus quality of life commission, and the LGBTQIA plus folks are in like intersecting with a lot of other communities, right? There are queer people experiencing houselessness, there are queer immigrants, there are queer Black folks, and like naturally I think our work is going to intersect with other existing commissions like Immigrant Affairs, like the African American Resource Advisory Group, and so on and so forth. And I think it doesn't make sense to me to not address issues as they come up, because especially, I don't know, we're 5 months into a new administration and new things come up like every day. And I think it's, yeah, exactly. So like, I think it's fine to be responsive to those issues and continue to be inclusive with the way that we view Queer Austin, because Queer Austin also includes our immigrant population. Queer Austin also includes folks experiencing homelessness, and I don't think we're stretching ourselves thin by just being responsive to the needs of our community.
Commissioner Brown.
I would welcome a co-meeting with the Commission on Immigrant Affairs, because I think, I know that I could learn from them, and I think that they could probably learn from us. And just sort of like, not have a meeting per se, but like just talk about what issues they're facing, what issues we're facing, and how we can work together on things. Because as we all know, with, you know, brown shirts rounding up people, this is a timely issue, and especially, you know, with, you know, immigrants who are also of our community, you know, their targets on their back, I mean, there are multiple targets on their backs. And so I just, whoever's gonna be the next chair and vice chair, at some point, we should have just some sort of like special meeting where both of us come together and sort of discuss issues.
And the chair and vice chair of the Immigrant Affairs Commission are also both out queer women, so.
Commissioner Kruger, is that what you're going to say?
No, I was gonna say something else, but do you have something
I'd
else?
really like to learn more.
Commissioner Kruger.
Yeah, thank you. So on this question, should the LGBTQIA Commission take up specific components of larger societal issues such as immigration, affordable housing, et cetera? In short, yes, because all of these issues are intersectional and just, it makes sense and it's the right thing to do. And I also think about, I serve on the Environmental Commission, and one thing that I come up there, because I bring up intersectionality a lot, is the ethics of like affordable housing and weighing that, you know, sort of the cost of development with the environment. And we do come up against things within our bylaws where it's like, oh, that's stepping outside of our purview, that's the Planning Commission. But when I look at our bylaws, it says in City Unicode, the commission shall, point 3, recommend to the City Council measures designed to enhance the health, safety, economic opportunity, and affordability, mobility, cultural and learning opportunities, and government access and accountability for the LGBTQ community. And 5, work with other city commissions to address issues of intersectionality. So I think this is well within our purview of what we can and should do.
Commissioner Anderson, did you want to, I know you had a comment earlier that was on this subject. Did you want to continue that comment? I just want to make sure we don't skip past that.
Nope, I was ahead of my time on this one.
So you're good? Commissioner Coyne.
Keep it short, I 100% agree with having that expansive agenda and really acknowledging that there's a lot of intersectionality in the work that we're doing. And just to actually, to your point about potentially having some sort of joint meeting and actually also making sure we're not spread too thin, back to my idea about town halls. We knew what they were ahead of time, and there was one on housing, and we could figure out how to co-host it with the planning commission and have a specific queer plus housing, LGBTQIA plus housing town hall with the planning commission. I don't know if there's precedent for 2 commissions meeting simultaneously like that, but if we did that 3 or 4 times a year and focused our energy there, I think that could be really effective. Public Safety Commission is the one that we would have for community safety, right? But actually trying to focus the heavy lift in those really effective meetings where we're giving the opportunity for community to be heard, but also having discussions with the commissions who are topically relevant on the topics that we've decided this meeting or maybe next meeting after this discussion are our highest priority items this year.
There's also, just want to point out the new Community Police Review Commission that I brought up at our last meeting. That's part of Prop A, and their first meeting is this month.
Good. Any other comments on agenda item number 3? Yes, Commissioner.
Very briefly echo a lot of what has been said recently, and want to thank Commissioner Perkins for bringing up the kind of immigrant experience part of this, and just wanted to say to the Commission's credit, we did have an agenda item on this, a brief presentation, I think it was maybe January, in response to everything that came up in the Trump administration and LGB, and I think there's a lot more that we can do. I really like the working with businesses idea, but just appreciate the time that we did give to that, and I think can continue to give as things come up and kind of make them also a priority for us.
And that's my only, I just want to express, a part of this, I recognize I'm still going to be a commissioner, but I need a break. And so a part of this is just to also make sure that the next leadership understands the issues that you're going to be facing, and this is a dilemma. There will always be issues, and how spread thin do we allow ourselves to get as a commission, and there is no winning this discussion. It is just making the best choices based on the input you have at the time from your fellow commissioners. But that can wait till agenda item number 7. So, moving on. Discussion regarding the necessity of working groups and whether the commission has too many. I have this here because I've heard complaints about working groups over and over and over again. And I feel like this is my commissioner is not understanding how the process works and why we do them, but I don't want to just sit here and preach my opinion on this. And so, honestly, I just want to put it out there. Do we have too many working groups? And is this really an issue? Because in my mind, it's the only way we can actually get things done that is anywhere near efficient. And so, for future leadership, it's an important discussion because that's, unless you amend the bylaws, that is the way to get things done on these small focus things. Yeah, go ahead.
Is there any way that Ryan can pull up the list of working groups so we can all see it at the same time?
Way ahead of you.
Yeah. And on that note, I think one thing that I wasn't aware of when coming onto this commission that is different from other commissions is that other commissions can have committees that are topically focused broadly, we are not allowed to have committees. We can only have working groups, which are meant to be on topics that are not long-term goal topics. They're specific, supposed to be temporary, not staffed. And so it's a little bit different. Ideally, in my mind, we would have committees that have overarching focus that would be an item until it's not an overarching focus for our community. Ryan, did you have something to add?
I have a few things on this. The bylaws may currently state that the LGBTQ commission will have no committees. That can be changed with the bylaw amendment. I would not necessarily, it would depend on the committee because that, as Commissioner Coyne just stated, that requires staff support, TOMA compliance, you have to meet quarterly, and once the committee is there, if that work does run out, it's hard to get rid of a committee as well. I was gonna mention that with the discussion about the non-trans and non-binary resources working group, just while we're on the subject, and since we chatted about it earlier, you know, like Commissioner Coyne said, working groups are for short-term things, and this working group was formed with the express purpose of collecting resources serving the Austin trans and non-binary community and formulating a document that the commission keeps up to date. This working group was formed months ago, and it's not my place to say, but that working group goal may have been completed, and so it may be worth it, instead of just appointing a new chair and new members, forming a new working group with a new goal of, say, printing and distributing the resource packet or advocating in some sort of sense like that.
That's correct. That is the way to handle this. I mean, working groups are in many ways, a step-by-step process to continue along a project, a longer-term project. Commissioner Coyne.
I think just for an example, like we have all said, and you've said, community has reached out since you've been on this board, Commissioner Rivas, and trans folks, that's not gonna go away as a need to focus. So like that for me would be a committee that has one of the responsibilities being trans resource guide, continued printing, dissemination, updates, etc. But like, I think could add other potential topics related to trans folks.
I hear you. I just, you get to the point where, sorry, go ahead. Did I not? No. I was gonna say, you get to the point where a committee requires open meetings, right? It requires advance notice. And so all of a sudden you have another commission. And at what point do you put in so many layers of additional work for volunteer commissioners who are just trying to update, a guidebook that it ends up becoming, so that is the thing you have to weigh, which is how much work do we put into this just to get a basic thing done. So whatever y'all decide in the end, I just want y'all to know that the working groups are there. And we are creative with them, with the encouragement of those that mandate we follow the rules, to be creative with them, because we have to get stuff done. That's as big as I say. Commissioner Brown.
So on a tangent, and I hate to bring this up, I'm sorry, but do we need to have like a bylaws revision and look at everything that's in there, and are we following it? And if we're not following it, then, are there some things that we can take out and, put in things that we're already doing? I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there.
That's what a retreat's for, right?
Bylaws revision, anybody want to take that on? Ryan, are there specific times that we can do, or is that just any time?
No, I mean, bylaw amendments have to be approved at a meeting, very specific language. But I mean, y'all can do bylaw amendments during any time.
What you would do is form a working group to look at what bylaws could be amended and what should, and then devise a plan for the commission to then either approve or not approve or debate, and then go through the process. But, Commissioner Benson.
Yes. On the topic of working groups, I think if you ask any seasoned politician or anyone who's worked in government, that the work happens in committees, or in our case, a working group. It gives us the ability that we don't have to debate everything here, that we can have closed door discussions that may need sensitivity, and that's where the work happens, where we can have informal conversations without worrying about walking the forum or getting everyone involved and being able to kind of think about things in a place outside of the time limits of our commission meetings. So I think, yeah, it is a necessary function of our work on the commission. And I think if we want to do anything, we are unfortunately need to form working groups around it. If we want to engage with police, I think we need to, or APD, or having community liaisons. That to me sounds like work that a working group would do, present to this commission, and that we make decisions as a whole based off of what that smaller unit has been able to digest and divulge. So I think it's very important. I think if anything, we're really exercising that well, and that's where the work happens.
I was just gonna add really quickly that I believe if we amend bylaws and we recommend that, it also needs to go get approved by council to officially be updated.
Yeah.
So just wanna make sure that goes to that.
I want to point out it's 9:36.
Thank you. Discussion regarding development of a handbook for new commissioners, as well as other ideas on how commissioners can become more engaged in non-leadership roles. I know Commissioner Benson has done some work on this.
Yes, and Brian, I can pass you a document that I've already started working on. I know we brought this up at a previous commission meeting, and I volunteered to do the beginning work of a commission handbook. I apologize, there was a death in my family last week, and so he was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and I have not been able to put attention to this in the way that I would like. But I have done some work on this. The idea of the shape of this would be kind of a welcome and mission statement, kind of talking about what we as a commission have done. So this would be for new commissioners, but also for us, so that we can look over. And this would be a living document. My thoughts too on that would be that the secretary would do that add to this document. So this would be mission and purpose, how we interact with council, and then what is your role as commissioner? How do we function? Also doing a historic overview. So this is where I've started to go through each of our minutes. If there's recordings, listening to those recordings, we're trying to sum up each of our previous minutes and summing up what we did every month for a year. And that's kind of the task of where I'm stuck right now and where I'm still working through. That's a lot of past minutes. But also talking about what has been our kind of highlights as a commission, what we have done historically, and being able to highlight our accomplishments. And then also who's been part of this commission before. So remembering the people who came before us, and kind of building on the work that other members of our community have started to do. And then working groups, obviously that's a big one for us. So this includes past working groups, so we can kind of get an idea, and when people coming in, we can understand, hey, we've done this before, or we haven't done this before, and seeing where we're at. I think we're much more mature right now with how we're tracking current working groups and members, and again, major accomplishments, as well as things that kind of, I know other commissioners have talked about this today, but things that are open and open items. So as we pass budget items to council, as we pass items to council, and as we all are following up with our members of council, you can kind of have a laundry list of, hey, in the last 3 months, we have passed budget recommendations, and these are the things that we're asking. So when I meet with you once a quarter, or once a month, or however often you meet with your council member, you can say, these are the things that we've identified as priority. Are you going to take this up for a vote? Are you going to be following up with this? Are there any resources I should be talking to? So that we can kind of you can have an idea of how to action on those things that will continue to be updated. And then lastly, kind of a quick summary of Robert's Rules of Order, because I know I struggle, and I think we all do, with making sure that we understand how to properly follow that, as well as our meeting structure. So how we've structured the meetings before, how kind of we as a commission have continued to function, and then calendar. This is something I think I put there down the bottom, but being able to look at past calendar items, and if we continue to plan and execute on longer term plans. It's not easy putting together town halls. That took months of work for our commission. I know we debated on those town halls as a commission. Being able to project out this year, next year, and a little bit longer term, I think that having that historical perspective, but also having a forward-looking perspective of something where we can kind of be thinking about those longer term issues would help. And then lastly, a glossary of terms, so anything that has come up, we can maybe make notes. And this is something that we can maybe start to provide because for an accessibility standpoint, when we talk about something like the JIC, the Joint Inclusion Commission, people understand what those terms mean. And then finally, norms. So this is norms around communication, attendance, behavior, etc. And this will cover things like walking quorum and being able to follow through with that. And then I've already started, I have a sample resolution and sample recommendation template so that as we start to do things like a recommendation that would go to council or a resolution that we would be passing, having something that we as a commission can easily plug in to, so we can have those things as kind of quick and easy. So that is my long-term plan that, or what I've started to do and started to plan, and if everyone's kind of good with that or wants to add anything, we can, I can continue to execute on that, and my plan would be that I would have kind of a final product to bring to our next meeting. And again, I apologize, I had family issues this month, and I wasn't able to get this built out when I said I would.
This is still a lot of work. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you for your work on this.
Any questions, thoughts, feedback on this general issue?
Just to comment on the amount of work, and I'm so sorry for your loss, Jerry Chato. You do so much work for this commission in general, and it is incredible the contribution you make, and this is, I think, very needed, especially with so many new commissioners and 2 new even as of tonight. I don't want to minimize that at all. I think we should talk more about it, honor the work that you've done, and I think expanding on this is an amazing start, is great. I do want to say, we have 18 minutes until 10. Yes. We have and I'm not trying to actually call it in, but like, when we have interpretation support that we know ends at 10, I don't think we should extend the meeting past 10.
I appreciate the feedback. Okay. I am fully aware we're almost there. But is there any input on, any other thoughts on Commissioner Benson? Commissioner Benson? Oh, Commissioner Trevino.
I love this, and I think it's great as the newer commissioner, and I appreciate your work on this.
And I'll just add, I'd be happy to put you in touch with the staff liaison for the Environmental Commission, who you referenced created a huge manual that already has a lot of this. So don't reinvent the wheel. Like, she'd probably send you a digital copy that you could move stuff over to. Yeah.
The only thing I want to make sure that all of this work that, that it gets utilized, will new commissioners use this? Is that something that we think that would occur?
I would have. I will, and yeah, definitely would have.
Okay. I would like to motion to postpone agenda item number 5, discussion regarding a potential bylaw amendment to add a secretary officer.
Second.
Anyone opposed to postponing agenda item number 5?
Why would we want to set that back and not talk about it this evening before, the last few minutes we've got?
Well, I think that one, it sort of has been talked about, the bylaws to the amendments. We can go ahead and begin the process if this commission wants to do that. I think that that's up to new leadership to go ahead and spearhead. And in my mind, that's something that new leadership can put on the agenda for the next meeting. So we can either remove it completely, right? Or I can't remove that completely today, I can just postpone it. And then new leadership can put it on the next meeting. I do think that a secretary officer role is important. I just think that we're getting to a time limit here. And there is a more important thing to do, which is have officer elections.
Sure. Just one clarification on that. It seems like this is, if this has been discussed before, it seems like the commission
should have an opportunity to decide, do we even want to postpone it? Or do we want to just talk about the creation of that and adding that into an election? It doesn't seem like it's going to be, it seems like this has been kicked down several months.
No, that's incorrect.
Okay.
But I think that this is something that we want to postpone. I made a motion. Anyone opposed?
To be clear, is this a motion to withdraw indefinitely or postpone until,
Postpone.
until next month?
Yeah, sure. Okay, everyone in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion postponed approved. Okay. Conduct an officer election for chair. Agenda item 13. You know, I do, this role is, it's trying. It's a delightfully wonderful, rewarding role. I think it's really important that leadership, you know, and these experiences, I think it's important that people learn how to do this. I certainly have learned a lot as chair in the last 2.5 years. And I'm really grateful. I'm sorry if I've become short in this process. I'm short to respond, I'm short to questions, just because I'm tired. And I think y'all sensed that over the last few months. Dealing with the city, especially in my personal life, when it comes to the businesses and 4th Street, and it's just been a lot. And now also having to do with it, you know. Anyways, the point being is I appreciate y'all's patience with me. And I look forward to our next commission meeting when I'm not chair and I can just be a commissioner and actually come up with coherent thoughts. So thank you all very much. And I'm really honored to have worked with all of y'all so far and in the past. I mean, Commissioner Benson has really done the lion's share of the work product that comes out of the last leadership. And I don't think this commission would be nearly as productive as it has been without Commissioner Benson at my side. And so thank you, seriously. You put out a large amount of product for this commission. And I think that, you know, when it comes to a commission, you know, my viewpoint is this: we can either be reactionary, and that requires, you know, the minimum amount of work, or we can be proactive, and that is something that takes a lot of time at leadership. And we want to be a proactive commission, which I think we have been. We need to make sure that we have leadership that has the time to dedicate to this commission and carrying this on. And so that's those are my thoughts. What I'd like to do is just go around and you know, before we make official nominations, you know, I just think it's important to have a discussion on this. And I know we're coming up on time, but yeah. Any other thoughts on leadership, on chair? That's an awkward vote, sorry. But I mean, with that, I'll make a motion to nominate Commissioner Benson as chair. Commissioner Benson.
Yes. I accept, and I'm sure you guys know that it's been an interesting year for me. I had cancer last year when I joined this commission, and then I lost this year. And this work has really been fulfilling for me. You guys know the deep passion I have for the community. If, you know, I really believe in the work that we're doing. I really believe in you guys. And I believe that we have all together done some really incredible things. I think we have more to do, and we will continue to do more as a group. I think it's been a great working with Scott, working closely with you all. It's been incredible. My own self, I feel like I've grown leaps and bounds in the last year as a vice chair. And I think have a lot to do, and I think I'm looking forward to what we get accomplished. And you guys know I'm a driven person. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to make sure that I stay organized and that we stay organized, and do whatever I can to make sure that we function well. That's the one thing I do well. It is not speaking, but I definitely try to bring to the table that organizational skill to help us all do our jobs better. But that's it for me.
Are we doing just chair right now?
Just chair for the first one.
Cool. I personally would like to nominate Commissioner Coyne. I think Commissioner Coyne is probably the person I've worked the closest with in my time as a commissioner since October. We worked on the trans resource guide together. And we also have been working on the task force recommendation group together. And I think that their expertise in the areas of planning and specifically working with the city are unmatched. I think it's been very eye-opening for me to get their expertise on like the cultural center things. This kind of stuff can be very marred in like uncertainty or like marred in like bureaucracy that I personally don't understand. And because Casey, Commissioner Coyne has worked in the city before, like they have kind of intimate knowledge of how it works, which I think would be invaluable on a commission where we are constantly having to interface with the city. I also personally think that they are a great leader. You know, I think that their leadership on the working group that we're on has benefited us tremendously on the Cultural Center project. I also think that literally because of them, we were able to get a sponsor, a more long-term sponsor for the resource guide thing, and not just kind of have to dedicate time constantly to being like, where's the money, where's the money? And I personally really appreciate that because it's been one of my favorite things that I've done as a commissioner. So yeah, that's my piece.
Well, just as a point of order for officer elections, it's a right to have this discussion, but once we get down to the actual election part itself, we have to do elections one person at a time. So the first motion is second on the taking your accepting the nomination as a second. The first motion is that where you seconding your nomination as accepting? Okay. The way it has to work that I've been told for officer elections is if someone's motioned and seconded, you have to have a vote just on that person. If they get a quorum, 8 commissioners voting in favor, their chair. If not, then we move on to another motion in second and election. I've been told can't do it in a way where it's like, you know, going around and somebody says one name, somebody says the other name, and that's whoever has the majority. It has to be the one at a time, the way I've been told.
Did we hear a second, or was that affirmation and was that a formal nomination?
I nominated, but I don't know if it is.
I mean, I don't know. On Environmental Commission, they specifically told us you do not need a second. That's not the procedure for nominating folks. So were you told that specifically we do need seconds?
It's not so much about the nomination and the second as much as it is like, if there was a nomination and that nomination was accepted, a vote has to be taken on that nomination before any other nominations are considered.
What does the nomination being accepted mean? Just like put out there, if someone puts out someone's name, then we do a vote on that person. Another name gets put out, we do a vote on that person.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so, vote on Commissioner Benson. Ryan, did you have something?
I just, if that wasn't the understanding of the entire commission, that we wouldn't even be able to discuss nominees, that seems problematic.
Yeah,
I will say that any commissioner with Robert's rules, any commissioner may extend, you know, if a question is called, if any commissioner objects to the question being called and still wants debate on the question, then that debate may continue, and consideration of other candidates, I believe is a part of that debate.
Point of order, I'd like to move to extend the meeting to 10:10 PM.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Everyone in favor of extending till 10:10 PM, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say nay. Okay, meeting's extended. Yes, exactly, Ryan. So basically, we have to debate, we can debate for as long as we want. Unfortunately, there seems to be some kind of process of, the elections can't, you know, Ryan's just giving me some news today, and so this evening, and so we're trying to process that. But basically, we can continue to discuss candidates and everything like that until someone calls for a vote. That hasn't happened yet.
I'm happy to respond then, maybe in informal capacity
Sure.
to Katie's nomination as a part of discussion, and I think ultimately, I want what's best for this commission. This is something that I have been asked over the past few months whether or not I would consider by multiple commissioners. At first, I kind of said, gosh, I don't know if I have bandwidth. And it's something that I have taken very seriously, talked to my family, talked to my partners about, talked to commissioners, and I do not take on any role lightly. It is something that I feel called to. If it is something that this commission decides my leadership is the best thing for the commission, I'm willing to make sure that I have the bandwidth to be proactive in the vision for the work that we're doing. And I also know that I have a lot of expertise to offer. From the Cultural Center, I grew up going to a queer youth group at a gay community center in South Florida. I also, just from my own identity's perspective, I am a trans, non-binary dyke who is autistic and ADHD and polyamorous and have done justice work in the past and am a facilitator. And I've also in the past been vice chair of Environmental Commission. I've been vice chair of the Joint Sustainability Committee. So I've been in officer roles in city boards and commissions in the past. I'm also recognized in a number of ways through awards and other mechanisms that have meant that I do have a wide network and reach in terms of my political agency in this community, and am pretty close with and connected to a number of our elected officials. All that to say, as I've already said, I care most about what is going to best serve this commission. I also recognize that we're in a place right now with the kind of representation on this commission where we do feel, I think, some risk of some division. And even my company that I run, the tagline for it is that we're relationships first, blah, blah, blah. I don't even need to say the rest. Relationships are really important to me. I hope that even tonight, when I spoke directly to Gary, I love everyone in this room. I don't say that lightly either. Like, I wear my heart on my sleeve. Like, I'm not conflict avoidant, but I also deeply want to connect with folks, even if I don't agree, with care. And I want to create a culture of accountability for us to be able to do work that doesn't divide us when our current political situation way beyond this room is incredibly divisive. This is the last time that we need to be divided as LGBTQIA folks. So I'll stop there. I'm really okay with anything. And also want to honor how much work Scott and Jerry have already done for the commission.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'm not okay with it. I think it's unusual, and this is not any kind of a attack on you.
No, it's unusual.
But it is unusual to have a chair that makes a motion for a successor. That to me is procedurally not something that I can support this evening.
Oh, interesting.
I think you have everybody as a commissioner, but you're leading this meeting, and this is a fairly laissez-faire process of learning this evening.
Correct.
But I would just procedurally, I perceive that as a bias. And as a new commissioner, I haven't had an opportunity to meet many of you before. I've listened to you, and I've watched some of you. But I do want to hear a little bit more from others, and I think that should come from the floor, not from the chair of the meeting. I believe my perspective as the chair of the meeting directs the meeting in assistance with any rules of order and any staff. There's a successor and there's a vote. I don't believe that should come from you.
Okay. Any other comments or thoughts on elections, on nominations for chair? So, take it up for a vote. Or not.
Motion to call a vote on the chair. And I don't know in what order that's happening, or if your nomination is still in effect.
His nomination is still in effect as far as I'm concerned, but that doesn't, so because there was already a motion made, correct? Right.
Not to
So
call a
whether you
vote,
agree
though.
with it or not agree with it, that's when we go up for a vote, right? But because if the first candidate, my understanding is you can vote for the first candidate. If the first candidate does not win, then you can also vote for the second candidate. That's correct, right?
Correct.
Okay,
And if the first candidate wins, you cannot vote on the second.
that's correct. I just want to say that we've got some really great leaders in here. And, you know, a lot of people have done a lot of work. Thank you, Scott. Thank you. I look forward to the next year as I continue to serve and learn from each of you, and it's okay to push back on me.
Okay. So we're going to vote on the first motion. If Commissioner Benson does not successfully secure the majority of the quorum, then the vote then goes on to Commissioner Coyne, right? We all are fully aware of how this voting works now. So everyone can vote appropriately without bias, without a misunderstanding as to how this works. Are there any questions on the voting in this process? I want to make sure we've talked it all out and everyone understands. Okay. For the record, I, as a commissioner, have every right to nominate whoever I want for whatever position I want, just like any other commissioner. Now, with that being said, I call for a vote on Commissioner Benson as chair. Commissioner McLeod.
Nay.
Commissioner Coyne.
Nay.
Commissioner Rivas.
Nay.
Commissioner Bandit.
Nay.
Commissioner Benson.
Aye.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Commissioner Kruger.
Thank you for your service, but respectfully, nay.
Commissioner Figueroa Lopez is absent. Commissioner Anderson.
Nay.
Commissioner Brookins.
Respectfully as well, nay.
Commissioner Davis.
What?
Commissioner Trevino. Okay, motion fails. Call for a vote on Commissioner Coyne. Commissioner McLeod.
Aye.
Commissioner Coyne.
Aye.
Commissioner Rivas.
Aye.
Commissioner Bandit.
Aye.
Commissioner Benson. Commissioner Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Commissioner Kruger,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Brookins,
Aye.
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Trevino,
Aye.
Commissioner Neal is aye. We have our new chair, Commissioner Coyne. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, y'all. I take this responsibility very seriously, and I appreciate your confidence in my leadership. Open door, open heart, it's kind of my thing. So I really appreciate all of you, and look forward to being your chair.
Commissioner Coyne, congratulations. I am here for you if you need me.
I would definitely be.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay, last item, because we got 5 minutes for this. Agenda item number 14, conduct an officer election for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner McLeod to be our next vice chair. I think they've shown themselves to be such a calming and thoughtful presence in the room, which I think is so needed. They're also an expert DEI consultant that works with the city, has done research in the past, and is at the same time creative and artistic, and is a performer in our community. And I think their voice at the helm will be really important as we look ahead to the next year for the commission. And I think that they'll work really well with our new chair, and fully endorse them.
Thank you. And I apologize for being under the weather, but I definitely accept, and I'm honored to be able to serve with each and every one of you. And like I've mentioned many times, I'm just here and grateful to help, and would love to continue to be of service.
Any discussion on the nominations? Any other nominations?
I was wondering if there was any other person who was interested.
Is there any other interest?
Can we approve by acclamation?
Yes.
I move that we accept, I'm sorry. I'm just drawing a blank. Commissioner McLeod as our vice chair by acclamation.
That's a vote, call for a vote. Everyone in favor of Commissioner McLeod as vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say no. Commissioner McLeod, congratulations. Vice chair. Meeting is, future agenda items. Any future agenda items? Sorry, y'all. I had to make sure I didn't forget that. Any future agenda items? No?
How are we following up with that meeting with APD? There was a number of requests that commissioners had during that meeting.
Yeah.
And where does that follow up?
Yeah, I think that's totally in order for the new chair. Commissioner Coyne.
Absolutely. I think we need an agenda item probably to discuss, again, a working group. I think we need some focused attention on that to really plan out what it would like to have a town hall that focuses on community safety. And so if you are already thinking about that being a priority for you as a commissioner, I think plan to come to the next meeting ready to talk about the work of a working group and potentially committing to being on a working group. Does that sound right to everyone?
Yeah, currently the agenda item was postponed, and so you have an agenda item there to use if you want. So.
Come on, just know we have 50 seconds.
I move to adjourn.
Meeting is adjourned. Sign language, thank you, sign language.
Thank you for staying late.